30-second timeout requested by the Trojans. We'll be right back. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Mustang Arena. Mark Barchi, the voice of the Mustangs, here with Neil Fisher from the Apopka Chief. We apologize for the audio difficulties to start the broadcast. Just one of those things where the feed suddenly cut out, was working fine right until the moment the game started, and then all of a sudden it was not there. But the Mustangs going gangbusters, and here they're going to add to it as Emmy James adds 3 for the Mustangs. Who had the assist? So now the Mustangs out to 15 unanswered points as Sierra Lindquist draws the foul. Foul called against number 11, Amanda McClendon, her first, and the team's first. And so, Neil, you couldn't ask for much better for the Mustangs in the first 4.5 minutes of this contest.
Yeah, absolutely, Mark. I think the 15-0 score speaks for itself. Obviously, you're playing great defense if you're not giving up any points over the first 4.5 minutes, but you have to also be shooting the ball well. And while we got the opportunity here, we mentioned against Dr. Phillips the last game that was on Wednesday, really the Florida Prospects Holiday Classic has always been a turning point for the Mustangs.
Denny Shalals from Emmy James.
And again, we're seeing the Florida Holiday Classic prospect really be the spark plug, if you will, for the second half of the season for Wekiva, rounding into state championship contender form as we got a turnover here.
Checking into the game for the Trojans, number 24, Ashlyn Dubois.
So again, Mark, the last 6 seasons, the winning percentage for each of those seasons after the Florida Prospects Classic Holiday Classic has been over 800 for Wekiva. And it really looks like this season is going to be no different, as Wekiva won all 3 of those games during the Classic, and now they added to Dr. Phillips, so they're on a 4-game winning streak for the first time this season.
Smith gets her own rebound here, gets the ball back to Bowles. Mustangs will get another look down the paint. It's good. Shanaria Smith floats one in from the key for 2.
And just real quickly, Mark, the key stats in those last 4 games has been field goal percentage and rebounding. Wekiva has yet to shoot under 46%. They shot 53, 55, 46, and then 52 in the 4 games during this 4-game winning streak.
Foul is called against Mustangs number 11, Amanda McClendon. That's her second personal foul, the team's second as well.
So again, Mark, because again, we're trying to settle into this game, some confusion and chaos here at the table. We had 53, 55, 46, and then 52% during this 4-game winning streak. We had, and then the offensive rebounding was 15-7 in the first game, and 21-7 against DP the last game. So again, those are the key statistics that Coach Butts always likes to look at. They're the stats that really determine if Wekiva's playing Coach Butts' style there, that up and down philosophy, really force the other team into making mistakes on offense, get the ball, and then move it up the court real quick here.
Foul is called against number 20, Yasmin Hightower, her first personal foul, and it's the team's 5th. At the line shooting, Madeline Touzé.
So, of course, tonight, Wekiva hasn't really been nearly as dominant on the offensive boards, but again, that's because they're shooting about 60%. So not a lot of opportunities to grab offensive rebounds. And those are actually the first two misses from the free throw line. Wekiva's gone to the free throw line 10 times already tonight.
Yeah, each of Evans' 5 fouls have been shooting fouls. Dubois tries to get inside, can't, turns the ball over to a steal by McCarthy. In transition, it's off the mark. And nobody touched it, so it'll be the Trojans' ball at their own baseline.
So again, I know I'm saying this a lot, but really, it's really the key story right now about Wekiva's season. Field goal percentage remains very high. When Wekiva's shooting a high field goal percentage, like any team, that means they're winning, they're doing good stuff.
Ashlyn Dubois on the Trojan putback. And so the Trojans finally on the board with just 45 seconds left in the first half, or first quarter, I mean.
However, I was going to say that field goal percentage, getting it up around 50% is even more so important for Wekiva, because it means that they're getting a lot of open shots in transition. So again, not like Wekiva needs a basket here, but it certainly would help if they could get 2 more points here before the end of the first quarter. It doesn't really appear that's going to happen now as Evans has slowed down the ball. Well, then again,
Bree Williams back for the Mustangs.
so Wekiva will get one last opportunity to get that lead back up to 19 points, maybe even 20. Got to take a quick shot here, though. And not really the way you want to end the quarter. They're missing the shot, but the bottom line is Wekiva did create an opportunity to score, getting that open shot. And as long as you're creating those open shots, you are going to have some good things happen.
That takes us to the end of the first period. The Mustangs out to a 19-2 lead at the end of the opening 8 minutes. We'll be right back. The Trojans have the opening possession of the second quarter. All right, welcome back to Mustang Arena. Mark Archie here with Neil Fisher, ready for the second 8 minutes of action. In this 8 minutes, Dubois gets their own rebound. Back but there's a quick pass. Dorian McKellen opens up second quarter scoring.
Wekiva actually did the last during the second quarter with absolutely no points. Points in the first quarter against Wekiva has now held points or less in 2 of the last 8 quarters. A pretty phenomenal. Looking at the stats here, field goal percentage has really been the difference. I know I've said that a number of times, but it just sticks out like the proverbial sore thumb as we get a beautiful three-point opportunity here.
Amanda McClendon.
About 97% this year. Now we're getting some double team here. Again, great double team, perfect time.
Diana Garrett steals 2 for the Mustangs.
That basket and transition opportunity set up by the
Denisha Bowles. And we'll pause for a 30-second timeout called by the Trojans.
28.
For therapy, because
All right, welcome back to Mustang Arena.
So we're at a key juncture of the game. I realize it's 28-4 the score. Nonetheless, Coach Butts is going to be looking at this as an opportunity for Wekiva not to lose focus, not to get sloppy. And we've mentioned this many times.
Mariana Garrett for 2.
And that's really coaches never want their team. It's not really about the score or the lead. To be honest, even though we're about halfway through the second quarter, Wekiva will really have to blunder to lose.
Yasmin Hightower on the pass from Bethel.
But nonetheless, you want to be able to play well throughout the entire contest, because if you do start getting sloppy, it then carries over into practice in the next game.
Emmy James picks up the Mustangs jumper.
And just as I mentioned that, Mark, Wekiva comes out and scored on 2 consecutive possessions. Some nice ball movement there, getting open shots.
Mariana Garrett on the Mustang layup.
Make that 3 consecutive possessions. Wekiva has looked very well, all of which set up by smooth ball movement. And of course, all 3 transition opportunities.
Denisha Bowles is fouled on the attempt. She'll go to the line and shoot 2 for the Mustangs. Trojan foul is called against number 1, Sierra Lindquist. That's her first personal foul. The team's 8th. Sierra Lindquist fouled on the attempt. She'll go to the line and shoot 2. The foul called against Emmy James. That's her first personal foul, the team's 4th. .30 lead for Wekiva as the Trojans head to the charity stripe. Lindquist. First is a little too hot. Mustangs currently at probably the best they've performed all year. Their starting lineup back in order tonight the way that it normally is. All players healthy. As Neil mentioned earlier, coming off of a big win in the Florida Prospects Diamond Division over Ribault. A real signature win for the program. It's deflected out of bounds by Darian McKellen, playing good defense there in the backcourt. 2:39 to go in the half. The Mustangs continue on their current pace. We may be running the entire second half in a running clock situation. Of course, the Mustangs defending state champions. The loss of Sedasia Payne to graduation certainly stung a lot, but the team seems to have gelled back together again. Good block out of bounds by Shadaria Smith. Checking into the game for the Mustangs, Tyria Smith. .212 to go in the half. Madeline Touzy deflects the ball out of bounds on the inbound. Better look that time. McKellen can't get it to go from under the basket. Rebound goes to Touzy. James almost traveled. Emmy James on the pass to Shadaria Smith. Lead up to 32 now. Stolen by Bree Williams. Thinks better of trying to make anything happen in transition. Gets it to Emmy James, who has an open look, and she's got it. Bree Williams to Emmy James on the Mustang jumper. Now up to a 34-point ball game. I believe Shadaria Smith got a piece of that one. Bree Williams gets the rebound, go the other way in transition. She's got it. Madeline Touzy for two on the long pass from Emmy James.
So just over a minute left here, Mark, and that lead is actually already in running clock territory. The clock isn't going to actually start running without stoppage until the second half, but it is 35 points. Once a team reaches 35 points, then if it is in the second half, the clock will continue to run, no stoppages. And as we mentioned, Mark, and certainly looks like this is going to be a rather easy victory. I know we're still a minute from halftime, but it would really have to take an incredible collapse here by Wekiva to not win. This will be Wekiva's about to put together a fifth consecutive victory. We're seeing some, and as we mentioned, Mark, in that first quarter, Wekiva got out to the 19-0 lead on percentage and rebounding and free throw shooting. Now they're doing it with getting turnovers in the second half and creating opportunities, transition opportunities from those turnovers.
Tyria Smith draws the foul. She'll go to the line and shoot two. The foul is called against Yasmin Hightower. That's her second and the team's ninth. Shania McCarthy back in for Emmy James.
So Smith, of course, she's from JV, right? Did Smith just come up? Well, Smith has yet to score tonight. She'll remain off the board.
Coming in hot from Bethel, can't get it to go. Daria McKellen draws the foul on the putback attempt. She'll go to the line and shoot two. Madeline Touzy is called on the foul. It's her first, and it's the team's fifth.
So, how do you pronounce McKellen? McKellen also has failed to score. She does have 3 rebounds. McKellen has taken over only 2 attempts from the field, and of course she misses both free throws. So again, this is certainly mostly what Wekiva's doing, but Evans, whatever opportunity Evans has had to get a few points here and there, they have not been able to take advantage. There was an example missing 2 free throws right before halftime. So again, before we go into halftime, Wekiva is looking to get a 5th consecutive victory and up the record to 11-5, 6 games over 500, along with the 5 consecutive wins. Would be a first this season for the defending state champions. And as we go into halftime,
Putback made by number 20, Yasmin Hightower, is good, and that takes us to halftime.
so as we go into halftime here real quick, I believe 8 points is also the lowest amount Wekiva has given up to any opponent this season. And with the 6 points given up, that now makes 4 of the last 8 quarters that Wekiva has not given up more than 6 points.
All right, well, we will leave it there for the first half, and we'll be back with more in about 9 minutes. Welcome back to Mustang Arena. Again, apologies for the audio. We apparently had the same problem at the beginning of the second half we did at the beginning of the first. But you haven't missed much. We are in a running clock situation now. As Arlesia Bethel misses the three there, the rebound goes to the Mustangs. And Neil, again, not a lot to complain about from the Mustangs in that half. And certainly they dominated the overall flow of the game as well as several key stat categories.
Yeah, and those stats, we talked about them at halftime as we got a bucket here.
Shadaria Smith adds 2 for the Mustangs.
We talked about throughout the first half field goal percentage, and in particular 2-point field goal percentage. Wekiva was 71 from the field, 12 of 17. And when you're 12 of 17 from the field, that means you're moving the ball well. You're also getting a lot of transition opportunities. Obviously, the closer to the basket you are, the more likely you are to convert field goal attempts. So the only two issues I guess Coach Butts' staff can really complain about is Wekiva was only 2 of 9 from three-point range. And of course, that's pretty much been their story all season. They have not shot the ball well, so that's not a surprise. And then they wound up 12 of 17 from the charity stripe. The reason I say that is because they were actually 9 of 10 at one point. So after that blazing start from the free throw line, they kind of cooled off. But again, when you open up a 20-plus point lead midway through the second quarter, you can afford to have a couple of missed free throws.
I think Bowles might have gotten a piece of that one.
And of course, as the ball goes out of bounds here, we get a foul.
Foul is called against number 4, Chayla Linder, for tripping. That is her third personal foul, the team's second this half.
I was going to also mention, too, it's not as big as field goal percentage or free throw percentage, but nonetheless, it has played a role. Evans 0 of 8 from the free throw line themselves, and they did also have 11 turnovers compared to 5 for Wekiva. So, Mark, we got into this a little bit in the first quarter, but now that it's actually come to fruition here, the running clock, the rule states that once the lead gets over 35, the clock runs. It doesn't matter if the lead goes back under 35.
Correct. The only thing that stops the clock would be the end of the period, a coach's called timeout, or an injury timeout. Tanisha Bowles is fouled on the attempt by Shayla Linder. That's her fourth personal foul, the team's third.
So, and also stick around. We do have another contest coming up. That will be the boys' varsity. They will feature the same two teams, Evans versus Wekiva. A bit of a different story there. The Wekiva boys looking for only their third victory of the season. As we mentioned, Wekiva, barring what would be just an unbelievable story here, will notch their fifth straight victory and up their record to 11-5. As we now dip under 1 minute in the third quarter.
Checking into the game for Evans, number 24, Ashlyn Dubois.
And we also had a game before this one. That was the junior varsity boys. Evans took a victory in that game, pretty much leading almost the entire game. Wekiva was able to keep the score close enough to at least give some suspense to the outcome, but really couldn't dig in for more than about 7 points, cut the deficit to less than 7 points.
Held ball, possession Mustangs. Shadaria Smith, coast to coast. And that takes us to the end of the third period. We'll be right back. The Trojans have the opening possession of the fourth quarter. Held ball, possession Mustangs.
So as we move into the fourth quarter, again, a running clock. Once the lead grows to 35 points, the clock does not stop, even if it does drop under 35. Wekiva actually field goal percentage drops very slightly from 54 to 53. 17 of 32 overall, 15 of 23 from two-point range, that's 65%. And only 7 turnovers compared to 12 for Evans.
30-second timeout called by the Mustangs. And we mentioned that is one of the reasons the clock could stop, and it will just for a moment. Welcome back to Mustang Arena. Time back in.
And take a quick look here at the upcoming schedule for Wekiva. Since while we got this big lead here, Wekiva will travel to Mainland tomorrow. That's Daytona Mainland. That is actually a district game now, as the number of classifications by the FHSAA has been reduced from 9 to 7. So that also means the districts have been shuffled.
The new district is geographically much larger and broader than the old one was, even though it doesn't necessarily have more teams in it by a significant margin. It is certainly covers more square miles.
And then on Wednesday, Wekiva will host Mount Verde here at home. That's a 6 p.m. start, so make a note of that a little bit earlier. And then next weekend, Wekiva will be playing in the MVP Sports MLK Classic. That's held at Dr. Kropp down in the Miami area.
Shania McCarthy, 4-3.
So there's your schedule for the next week. An excellent opportunity for Wekiva to really extend the winning streak all the way to 9 consecutive. Some very challenging teams, but certainly not teams that are expected to go deep, like state Final Four deep into the FHSAA postseason tournament.
Alicia Bethel for 3 from Yasmin Hightower.
And some nice shooting there from Evans. One of the rare occasions tonight. They just have not been able to shoot the ball well.
Shania McCarthy is fouled on the
Wekiva.
McCarthy over 2 at the line. And the rebound goes to Hightower.
And McCarthy So McCarthy now has 3 points. Go with 4 rebounds. Speaking of points, the leading scorer for Wekiva, Shadaria Smith with 12. Denisha Bowes next with 10. Only 2 players have scored in double digits for Wekiva. However, 9 players in total have scored. So definitely a very balanced attack in the scoring department.
Shania McCarthy steals 2 for the Mustangs.
So we'll make that 5 points now for McCarthy to go with her 4 rebounds. So we mentioned a couple minutes ago, Mark, that the FHSAA has reduced the number of classifications from 9 to 7.
Putback made by Stephanie White.
And that's important to note because Wekiva is now actually in Class 6A. They have, for most of their existence, been in the highest classification in terms of the number. And also just wanted to make a point, the classification numbers are not based on skill level or how good a team is. It's just based on the student population, the size of the student population.
Held ball, possession Trojans. And Neil, if I can make a fearless prediction here, I think that Wekiva is going to try to get it into the hands of Tyria Smith because she is currently the only player who is not in the books to score yet. And it's always a nice thing when you can get 100% of your players with points in the book.
Yeah, Mark, that's a good point here. So
foul is called against number 11, Amanda McClendon. That's her 4th personal foul, the team's 2nd this half. At the line shooting, Michaela Coates.
You know, and I think that's also good to point out because it really does show that Wekiva is now playing as a team. I know, of course, in any sport, you always hear about there being no I in the team, but I think I've yet to really see in high school sports, in any sport at the high school level, a team that could really ride one player to the championship. They might be able to get into the playoffs and win 20-plus games in the regular season, but once they get into that tournament, I've yet to see a team that doesn't play as a team be able to win a state championship. So about to go under 1 minute here. Again, stick around. The boys will take to the court after this game, the 3rd and final game of tonight. And of course, that's a much different story for really both of those teams. Evans, of course, is looking not only to win their district, they are a Class 7A team. Again, that's the highest classification. But like usual, they have expectations of making a long run into the FHSAA postseason tournament. Wekiva, on the other hand, is looking for only their 3rd victory, a very young team. Nobody from last season's team who saw any significant time return. So they're definitely taking bumps and bruises of the growing process. And again, as we now are about to close out this game, mentioned it before, but certainly Wekiva looks to be rounding into championship contendership form. They will up the record to 11-5 and a 5-game winning streak, the first at any time this season in both categories.
That takes us to the end of the ball game. Mustangs hold on for a decisive victory here in the ladies contest. Ladies and gentlemen, we thank you so much for coming out to support your Mustang and Trojan athletes. And we also thank those of you who tuned in online on YouTube Live or the NFHS Network. Don't go anywhere except the concession stand. We'll be back with varsity action for the gentlemen coming up right after the warm-up period. Those of you listening online, just be aware that each of the games is on its own separate live stream. So we'll see you at the next one in about 15 minutes.